Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, Shir sponsor Luinish Pasam Yaakov Shalom Le'Abbas Yitzchok. We're holding Basra Daf Tezvov. Now we're continuing with the topic which are called semi-agadata. There's a gata, and it's a little bit, it's not only a gata, it's a pure gata, all the things, but it has a lot of gata in it. So we're starting down on the base in the bottom, 4 lines in the bottom. After we spoke about the Sidro, we talk about the order of the Tanakh and the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. Now we're talking about who wrote the Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. Umi Kosov, who wrote what? Moshe Kosov Sifroi Uparshas Bilam. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote his Sefer, and he wrote Parshas Bilam. So this, we discussed the Shom HaShav and the Daf of Daf Yudalet, that, what do you mean Moshe Rabbeinu wrote? Why is Sefer Bilam not part of the Torah? Because a Sefer Parshas Bilam, what does it mean? So we bring over there, just in short, that Maharil Diskin explains that when Moshe Rabbeinu said in Nevuah, every Nevuah is an interpretation of the Navi. Moshe Rabbeinu's Nevuah is the clearest one, so he gives the best interpretation. So when he speaks about what Avraham Avinu saw, he doesn't just repeat Avraham Avinu's words, but he actually records, he actually says his interpretation, what Avraham Avinu saw. But by Bilam, it says that Bilam was able to see as clear as Moshe Rabbeinu. So there Moshe Rabbeinu just copy-paste what Bilam said. That's what Maharil Diskin explains. That's what Parshas Bilam is a separate thing. Rashi says Parshas Bilam is different because it's nothing to do with the order of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay. This Gemara, this Bryce understands, the one who wrote Sefer Yov is who? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote Sefer Yov, and I'm going to address that in a moment. Yeshua, because of Sefer, Yeshua wrote Sefer Yeshua. In the last 8 psukim of Sefer Devarim, where it says that Moshe Rabbeinu died. Shmuel, because of Sefer, he wrote his own Sefer. V'Shoiftim, he wrote the Sefer Shoiftim, which is the story of all the Shoiftim until Shmuel. V'Rus, he wrote also the story of Megillas Rus. David Kosav Sefer Tehillim, Al Yadesh Asoros Kenim. There's 10 people that David HaMelech basically quoted in Sefer Tehillim, right? Meaning, he wrote these 10 skenim that he quoted in Sefer Tehillim, some of them from previous generations, some of them Rashi says from his own generation. Who are the 10? The Odom Rishon, like it says, Rashi brings a psukim in Tehillim Kufla Metes. It says, "Go mirur necho v'li me'kurecho." This is all psukim that the Odom Rishon said. Al-Yedei Malki Tzedek, which is the shame. V'al-Yedei Avrom, v'al-Yedei Moshe, Tefillah Moshe. Al-Yedei Heimon, Maskil Heimon. Al-Yedei Yedusun, that's the name of a person in Yedusun. V'al-Yedei Osaf. When they have Tezvah, when they have on top. Al Yedei Shloisha Bnei Korach. So these are the people that Torah Melech quote. He wrote Sefer Tehillim and he quoted many others that said Pirkei Tehillim in their name.
Is it important he didn't write the whole thing?
What?
Is it important he didn't
Oh,
write the whole thing?
so we'll get to that.
So I base the first thing?
No, so we'll get to that. Pashas, he wrote the whole thing. The Shaila is what do you do with Shlomo HaMelech? We'll see. Because there's psukim that seem to be so to Shlomo HaMelech. So let's get to that. Says the Gemara. Maybe we'll say right now over here. Taisus brings a girso that says in Zal de Shloishim Noach. He says Al Yedei Shloimoy Val de Noach, and he quotes Shlomo Melech too. That's what he writes. So he brings 2 girsos about that. Now, what are you going to do if it's not Shlomo Melech? Hi, there's a pasuk Tehillim Ein Beis that says LeShloimo Elokim Mishpatechatein. It says Shloimo. So it says that David HaMelech davened for Shlomo HaMelech. Was David HaMelech saying it on behalf of Shlomo HaMelech? And he says, okay, and then we'll see the Shilas in our gear. So we have Avraham Avinu, we have Eitan Ezrochi. We don't have Eitan Ezrochi by us. Some do have Eitan Ezrochi. And the Shaila, who is Eitan Ezrochi, the one is going to speak about it too. So we have a different gear source. But the Pashup Shot, even though it says Kolu Tfilos Dovi Ben Yishai, the Gemara already asks it, and the Gemara says Kol Elu Tfilos Ben Yishai, not Kolu, not end. All the Tehillim is Tfilos Dovi Ben Yishai. What he quoted, that's something which is addressed. Yirmiyah Kosav Sefer Seven Melachim. Yirmiyah wrote his own Sefer that he spoke about, the Churban. Seven Melachim, which is all the stories of Melachim until the Churban Mikdash. Vekinus, he wrote Sefer Eichel. Chizkiah v'Siyafsoi, which means the people who were together with Chizkiah. Rashi says that it was Chizkiah, Torah says, the reason because Chizkiah made them learn Torah. So he's the one who encouraged them to do it. So they wrote what? Because of Yeshaya, Sefer Yeshaya, who was killed. So the Siyasa refers to Yeshaya, as Torah points out, was killed by Chizkiah's son. Menashe was a king after Chizkiah. He was a Rasha, and he killed Yeshaya. We learned it earlier that Yeshaya went into a tree, and then Menashe cut the tree and killed Yeshaya. So when it means Chizkiah, it doesn't mean Chizkiah himself. It means his group wrote the Sefer Yeshaya. And Rashi explains why Yeshaya did not write it himself, because all the Nevi'im wrote their Sefer only in the end of their life. So Yeshaya died prematurely, so he didn't have time to write the Sefer. And then what else? Mishlei Sheashim ve'Krealis. They wrote all the Sfarim of Shlomo HaMelech. What did they write? Yechezkel, Sefer Yechezkel. Now Rashi says, why did they write Yechezkel? Why didn't Yechezkel write himself? Yechezkel lived the full life. So he says Pshat because Yechezkel was in the Goyel, Yechezkel was in Bavel. So you don't write it in Bavel until he goes to address it. Vishnei Masar, the 12 Nevi'im that are put together. Daniel, Sefer Daniel, and Ksuvim, Megillas Esther. And Esher Kosav Sifra, he wrote his own Sefer, V'yachas Shedivrei Hayomim Adloi. And the only Divrei Hayomim until it gets to him.
Why does it say Shayom?
What?
The Gemara is saying Shayahu wrote Mishnah.
Chizkiah
wrote this? No,
yeah. No, it's Shlomo HaMelech's words, but he wrote, he's the one to put it into writing. Second one, he made sure that as he good yichus, so he had the whole yichus of throughout the generations, and then he went there to Yisrael. Uman Aske, who completed Divrei Hayomim, because Ezra did tell there who completed it. Nehemiah ben Chakiloyah. Nehemiah is the one who completed it. Here's, by the way, just to point out, the Gemara does not mention Nehemiah. And here we have a fascinating thing we spoke about in the past, that the fascinating Chidah, that Nehemiah originally, there was no Sefer Nehemiah. Ezra was both, because the Gemara brings that Nehemiah was punished, that because he said something about Gaiva, he lost having his own Sefer. But now, today, there is a Sefer Nehemiah. Why? Because the Goy put it back. The Christians, when they reprinted the Bible, they took half of the Sefer Ezra and they called it Nehemiah. Says the Chidah, that's not a coincidence, because there was Kapara to Nehemiah. Fascinating thing. Second one, I'm not going to come explain. Yeshua goes to Sefer Yeshua Psukim Yeshua Torah. You wrote the last 8 Psukim of the Torah. Tanya Kaman Noam Hashua Yeshua Psukim Yeshua Torah Yeshua Koso. That goes like Noam the holds. Who wrote that last 8 Psukim of the Torah that it says the Moshe Rabbeinu died? Yeshua wrote it. The Tanya of Yehoshua Moshe with Hashem, that starts the last 8 Psukim of the Torah. It says the Moshe Rabbeinu died. Efshar Moshe Meis because of Hayom Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is dead and he wrote he's going to die. And Moshe Rabbeinu already died, he can't write it. And if he didn't die, so how did he say died? Elahat because of Moshe. Kameil because of Yeshua Divrei Rabbi Yudus. He says yes. Yeshua Binun wrote the last 8 Psukim in the Torah.
Wasn't the Gersa that Moshe Rabbeinu?
That's a Gemara. That's a Gemara. So right now we have the first sheet is Rabbi Yudus. Rabbi Yudus' sheet is the Yeshua wrote. Ve'amullah Rabbi Nechemah. Some say Rabbi Nechemah said it. Amullah Shimon Afshes Sefer Torah Chotz Rois Achas. Can it be that the Sefer Torah Moshe is missing one letter? V'chtiv l'koyach Sefer Torah Hazeh. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu took the Sefer Torah. Elad Kal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Moshe Omer V'koysev. Until the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Moshe Rabbeinu repeats it, he writes it. Mikan ve'ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Moshe Koysev B'dema. From here on, Moshe Rabbeinu writes it crying. So here in this way, Hashem will be talking about the Shom Achshav on the Daf. What does it help that he writes it crying? But he still wrote it. The Gemara had a problem in the beginning that it's a lie. He's not dead. So he writes it crying. He is dead. And Maharal says that tears reflect someone who's not fully alive. When a person is crying, he's right now in a state of despair. Moshe Rabbeinu was crying b'dema. He was crying. There's another pirush, we'll get to it. Chasari brings it others that the way the letters were written, as the Ramban writes, the letters were not written. The letters of the Torah could be rearranged to be Shveitz Shekash Bochu. When Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the letters, they didn't say the words of Yom Moshe. He wrote, there was different words there. The same letters, but different words. And after he died, he turned around to be the right words. So that's what it means, Bedema. Bedema means Birbuvio, letters Birbuvio. The way that you see that someone said it, that someone wrote it. So that's Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the whole Torah, except an eight psukim we wrote with them. To the last eight psukim, one has to read them, meaning don't have. That's the first discuss. What does it mean? But one is to get to us, so you don't do two aliyos over there. Unless it was written a different way, a different method, and that's why you don't do a hefsek over there. Same way Yeshua calls of Sefer. Yeshua wrote a Sefer. So which it says in Yeshua, it says in the Sefer Yeshua that he died. It's like more they ask Elazar finished it up. It says also there Elazar ben Aaron died. They ask Pinchas finished that. Shmuel calls of Sefer. Shmuel Meis. It says Shmuel in the Sefer Shmuel it says that he died. They ask God the Chayzev and Osanov. The two Nevi'im after Shmuel finished it up. David calls of Sefer Tehillim the Yasar's Canaan. He wrote Sefer Tehillim with 10 skenim. What about Eitan Ezrochi, who was not mentioned? We mentioned before, he says this. There's a gear that does mention it. Argument Gord does not bring it. We have Mizul Eitan Ezrochi. You open the Sefer Tehillim, you see the name Eitan Ezrochi there. So So he's called Eitan Ezrochi because he came from the east to join Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Similar Kachoshi Moshe, it says Moshe Rabbeinu is one. V'kachoshev Haman. V'amarav Haman is Moshe. We heard that Haman is Moshe Rabbeinu. Tivach Haman, Tivach Bechol Beisim Ne'emanu. So what Trey Haman now? There's two Hamans. One Haman is Moshe Rabbeinu, the other Haman who joined in the writing of Sefer Tehillim. Says the Gemara, Moshe Kosav. Rashi said before that these are the ones that were in the lifetime of David HaMelech. Asaf, Haman, and Yedusun, which were the Levi. So Moshe goes to see Pashas Bilam Be'ir. So now we get into Eir. So we mentioned Moshe Rabbeinu, Sefer, Pashas Bilam, and he wrote Sefer Eir. So when Messiah by Lachmo, don't leave by Lachmo. Eir Moshe Ayo. Eir was in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. It says in Eir that he says, "I wish that my words will be written." And it says the word Eifoy. So now. And it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, so the word Eifoy is mentioned there. You see, it's the same time. So the more Yitzchak even use the word Eifoy. So now what you should do? It's different because this Eifoy is an aleph, this Eifoy is a hey. Without going into it now. We do have a word similar to that. So it says, if you're using the word Eifoy, how do you know to stick it to Moshe? We said it should be written in a sefer. And it says, so we talk about Chakiko, who's the Mechoykek? Who's the one who writes Chakiko? Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's Shita number one. Again, the sugi now, throughout the next half and a half, we'll speak about Eir. So right now the Gemara starts where what one was Eir. Shita number one, he was Batar Moshe Rabbeinu. Shita number two, Rav Amar Eir b'mei Meraglim. He was Batar Meraglim. Tivacho ish oyo beretz utz Eir shvoi. So that's where he lived. Tivacho mayesh bo eitz. Moshe tells the Meraglim, go check if there's a tree. So it's not the same word. Harikomer lo Moshe Yisrael. It's not because the word utz. Just he's talking about this person who has very long years, as we'll see soon, that he lived for 210 years, at least, and he protect his generation. Who was that? That's Eir. Same way Yosef Umer Abon Kabida Shmuel Malachman of Yosef called my ear Veloy Hoyo Veloy Nivro Ela Moshel Hoyo. This is, by the way, an expression in today's modern Hebrew. Loy Hoyo Veloy Nivro never happened, it was only a Moshel. It says there was this person. So according to you, right? It says over there also by David the Melech, there's a story when David the Melech took away Bathsheba. So it says they came to him the Navi, and he told him, "Oh, v'tehilu kibas." That says in the pasuk. Give him a mashal of the rich who took away the sheep, the shepsele of the poor. So that happened. El mashal. So in Ket Shmoy b'Shemi Ulamoy, he mentions his name, the name of the city. If it's just a mashal, who gives the name? So here we're going to speak about in Shom Mashal Hadah Be'ez Hashem that the way the Chazal Sofer speaks about the Ben Yodo, even the one who says Lo Yoy V'Lo Nivro Mashal Loyo doesn't mean it didn't exist. It means it existed, but it was not a Gilgul Neshams. Not to mean Lo Yoy V'Lo Nivro. It wasn't there pre-4, in a different generation. It wasn't there later. So interesting. There we're going to talk about it in the Shom Mashal. He was the ones that came with the Goyal in the time of Ezra. In other words, he came from Bava. And his Medrash was in Tveria. The years of Eoy was the time when Am Yisrael came to Mitzrayim till the 11, which means 210 years. So that's the Dvavim base. So not that years that you saw in Mitzrayim, but the same amount of years, 210 years, but it wasn't during the time that Moshe Rabbeinu, the Am Yisrael were in Egypt. The 7 Nevim that did nevuos to the Goyim. They who are they? Bilam ve'Oviv. As Mephosh pointed out, when it says the name of the father by a Novi, that means his father is also a Novi. He says Bilam and Beor, so Bilam and Beor were both Nevim, that's 2. Ve'Yor, that's number 3. Elif was a Temoni, Ubalda the Shuchi, V'Tzufar and Amosi, all mentioned in Eoiv. Ve'Eliu ben Barachel, which is mentioned also in Eoiv. Abuzi. These are the 7, right? So you have another one. You have Bilam, his father, Eoiv, Eliphaz, Baldod, Soifar, Ve'Eliu. So over the time Eliu ben Barachel, Am Yisrael. So one is asking, Masha, these are Goyim. So Eoiv was a Goy, right? And he wasn't one of Oile Bavel. So according to you, Eliu ben Barachel, Am Yisrael, Tachtim Mishpachas Ram, he belongs to a family of Jews. What it means that he was Navi Lumusar, not he was a Goyish Navi. He was a Jew, it could be a Jew, but his Nevu was to the Goy. It could be he was a Jew, but he did Nevu for Musar. So after Kul Nevim, you're learning Brilin Musar. All the Nevim, Shaya, Yirmiyah, Yechatzkel, all spoke of Musar. How to be kind of a Yisrael Yisrael? Who's the main front? What do they speak mainly? Shai, Yirmiyah, Yechatzkel spoke to Yisrael. These ones spoke mainly to Musar. So when Mesiveng brings a question, there was a Chassid in the Goyim, he came to the world to get his reward. He got Yisurim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he started Mechar from Megadev, he started the curse Hashem. Kafal HaKadosh Baruch Hu schar b'olam haba, because they told him in Olam haba. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him much more reward, so you won't get Olam haba. And this we'll get later in terms of where is Eir in terms of being a tzaddik or a Rosh. We'll get to that very Hashem. But the Gemara says what? So you see over here that he was a guy. It's called Tanoi. It's Machlis Tanoi. The Tani. It was in time of Rus. That's a pasuk in here. That it's a time of Hevel, as we'll see soon. Time of Esther. It says in the pasuk that the daughters of Eir, the most beautiful one, you couldn't find more beautiful than them. Which generation did we search for the most beautiful woman? There was a beauty pageant. When was that? Here it's only in Eretz Yisrael. Here they're looked at all in all the world. In the time of Malchus Shvo, when there was in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, so the Shvo came and took away Iyov's stuff. It was in the time of the gold was Bava. It says by Iyov that Chazdim made three heads to fight. Yaakov Avinu, much earlier. Vedino bas Yaakov Nasa, he married Dino. When it speaks about in Iyov, that's a pasuk. So we saw it, so there's a word in Velo. So the more of it, Kulu Tanoi, Kulain Tanoi, Yisrael, the Yisrael Avo. Everybody here agrees Yisrael was a Jew, except the Yeshaimim that said that they said it was maybe Yaakov ben Dino, because then it was before Am Yisrael. If it's a guy, he can't be a Navi. There will be no Shechina, no Nevuah, it was given to him. So what do you see from here? So if you say there was after Moshe Rabbeinu, all these Tanoim hold, except the one that says Yaakov Avinu, they all say it was after Moshe Rabbeinu. So it has to be he's a Jew. So therefore the Gemara says, this is a Tanoim, there's a sheet that holds he was a guy, and he came here to get to suffer, but most sheet holds he was a Jew. The door of Iyov was full of zimo. It says in the Mashal Shir Shim that you're looking at a woman. So it's they looked at a woman. It says more it means they will see Chazoin ben Nevuah, means Kedusha. It says Hevel Devo should have. It's not Hevel, it's a good thing. So you see, it's a bad riyah. Which bad riyah you talk about? There's no. That we just mentioned by Rus, they judge the judges. He says the shayfet tells the one who's coming in front of him, says take a toothpick from your teeth, which means take something small out of your tooth. He says, take out a big koiro from your eyes. I mean, you're much worse than me. He says, your money, you're not doing in a honest way. So he tells him that your thing that you sell, your weight is with full of water, right? The wine is full of water. So in other words, you're doing things worse than me. It says Malchus Shvo by Iyov, and Malchus Shvo. It wasn't a woman, it was the kingdom of Shvo. Says the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to go in Darshan. We're going to go a little bit into Daf Zayin because I don't want to leave so much for tomorrow. But the Gemara, this is going to go Darshan the Psukim in beginning of Sefer Iyov. This is really, we're going now and learning. If you didn't have the opportunity to do so, here's your opportunity to start learning Sefer Iyov. Sefer Iyov, throughout the Sefer, is a very, very difficult Sefer to learn. But the beginning is a story, because the beginning tells us what happened, how Iyov began. And this is what the first part of the Gemara over here. We're going to go again into Daf Zayin with Aleph, and let's see the first Psukim over here. So it comes the day, they all come in front of Kodesh Baruch Hu, Satan among them. Chazal tells us, let's talk about the day of Rosh Hashanah. Where are you coming from? The Satan says, I came, which means I went throughout the whole land. I went all over. I didn't find anybody like Avraham Avinu. You told them, I'm giving you the whole land. The Satan is giving a shvach to Avraham Avinu. You told him you're giving the whole land. He needed to find a burial place for his wife, and he couldn't. He didn't ask questions. So comes the pasuk, the psukim in here. To the Satan, so we have to understand what's going on over here. Why is it like so? We'll speak about a little more next half. But it tells the Satan, whoa, 1 second. What about here? He's a tzaddik. It says by Avram, Yireh Elokim. There's much more shvachim ba'ir. Right? It's much more shvachim ba'ir. So here the Mepharshim were bothered with, can you just tell me the ear was a bigger tzaddik than Avram Avinu? How can that be? One way, the Meshachach has a beautiful Pashto way. He says, Avram Avinu, everything was summed up in one line. It was Yireh Elokim. Everything came from there. Eoy was not on that level. So he had different reasons why he did things. Good reasons. Samiro, Yireh Elokim. It wasn't so cohesive, so consistent like Avram Avinu. My Samiro that says by here, Omar Alba Shmuel, Eoy Vacher Miamoino Hoyo. He was a Mevater. He gave up in his moment. Minoga Shaloi Lonotir Chatsi Pruto Lechenvoni, Eoy Vitro Mishaloi. Right? The meaning of the world is that if a person needs to, he owes half a pruto to somebody, so what do? So he tells you, you know what? I have half a pruto. I don't have less. It's $1, 10 cents. I can't divide it. Let's go to the store. You and me will buy together something. Here says a mevater. Mevater amoyin is a big, vitu amoyin is a sar mirah. Mevater is more. So says Sotot Hashem. You know what? Of course he worships you. You gave him everything. He's rich. He's wealthy. He has a good family. Everything is good for him. You made his bracha and his mice. Whatever he does, everybody is successful. And his cattle grew. They were acting out in a normal way. Usually the wolves kill the goats. By year was the opposite. Ulav continues. Sota tells the Baruch says the Satan, test him, give him a hard life. Let's see if he's going to still be such a tzaddik. The Satan, go ahead, you can do whatever you want. Don't kill him. We'll see tomorrow's daf. Like I was going to say, it was much harder for the Satan not to kill him than to kill him. Comes a day, and the sons, boys and girls are eating and drinking wine, and they were harvesting, and then came and then it was everything was dying. So the bakar were plowing, and the atoinos were eating, were grazing. That as they were plowing, it already grew, and they were able to eat. Alright, so that's what it says. And each one comes and says that terrible news. The animals died. A fire came and burned everything. The enemy, the Persians, Kazdim, Umo, came and captured everybody. Came a big wind. The house fell and all your kids died. And they all died. So everybody, kids are, one day he gets the bad news, he loses his money, he loses his properties, his kids die. So he tears his clothing, cuts his hair. What did he say? I was born naked. I'll be buried naked. Hashem nosan, Hashem lokach, Hashem Hashem gave, Hashem take. I'm still giving bracha to Hashem. He did not sin. He did not ask any questions. Comes the day, according to based in the Zohar, they come again. Where do you come from? I travel the land. I saw, again, it comes and says that Avram Avinu is the best. It says, you couldn't find a place to bury sorrow. He did not ask any questions. And he's still keeping himself, he's not doing anything. But you try to seduce me, to trick me, to persuade me to say that he's bad. So in other words, Kishbul Kivyachol allowed the Satan to try to make bad for Yev, even Yev is still good. If you're not a apostle, you couldn't say it. The what? As if the Satan has the rishus to go and persuade and to what's the right translation? And you know he to persuade a Kodesh Baruch Hu and to try to tell him I want to cause to you to test somebody. So we'll stop over here. We'll continue from your base tomorrow. But we see over here, this is Mamish talking about it. Kodesh Baruch Hu is giving here, taking away. The Hemshech of Psukim is that the Satan tells the Kodesh Baruch Hu, you have to make him suffer. Don't just take away his money. Make him suffer in his body. Okay, very good. So we'll stop over here.